Hi, you guys. Emily, Kid Lit Book Love. I'm here to talk to you today about a classic children's novel, What Katy Did. It was written by Sarah Woolsey, and her pen name is Susan Coolidge, in the year 1872. And I just finished reading this for my dissertation project, my master's thesis actually, in children's literature. And this book, What Katy Did, is very similar to the theme and style of a book that came very close to this time frame, which is Little Women. So it follows the life of 12-year-old Katy Carr, who has 5 siblings, brothers and sisters, growing up in small town, rural Ohio with a single father, no mother, a mother who passed away. And she is the oldest. So you see a lot throughout the story of sort of sibling antics. They're very similar to Little Women. There are some scenes where they're play acting and they have their own theater club and they have their own tree house, and they're playing on the swings, and they have their own responsibilities. And so a lot of similar themes. It's very much a coming of age story, but more in the way of a sort of tragedy to triumph, I suppose. It's a very interesting story. So Katy Carr, this 12-year-old girl, it very much is emphasized by Susan Coolidge early in the book that Katy has all these dreams and ambitions of who she wants to be and what she wants to do, and her dreams and her goals and her visions for herself, how her future is going to be bright and beautiful, and there's so many things she can't even repeat to people what she wants to do with her life. And you can sort of just tell the foreshadowing is coming, that something bad's going to happen because there's such an overemphasis on her goals and her dreams. So as you see from the swing set, Katy on it in the front, this should show you, Katy actually has a tragic accident where she goes too high on the swing, falls off upside down, lands on her neck, and breaks her back, sort of, or at least they think it's broken. What's really interesting to me in this book is how, from the midpoint on, the book is about her convalescence and her being an invalid. And she's referred to as an invalid by her dad, her aunts, her sisters, the doctors, like it's just her normal title. Like the dad will say, oh, it's taking care of invalids is something I'm used to. He just says that, it's really kind of sad. But what's really interesting to me are two things. One, if this accident had happened to Katy in our modern day, would she walk? Because in the book, they presume she can't walk for several years. She's in a wheelchair. And but they didn't have physical therapy. They didn't have spine doctors. They didn't have all of those abilities then. So it very well could be she could have got up and walked in 6 weeks with the right exercises. But the doctors during the time say, don't exert yourself, try not to move, things like that, in case you make your spine worse. And so then she gets a fever, which makes her more ill from the back injury. It's kind of all sketchy sort of doctor stuff from the late 1800s. And what's interesting to me is for Katy, it doesn't ever occur to them, the father, the doctors, the aunts, the siblings who take care of her, for the several years she can't walk and is in a wheelchair. The first good part of it, there isn't even a wheelchair. She's confined to bed. It never occurs to them to move Katy somewhere else in the house. So years go by. She's confined to her room upstairs. It's not until the end of the book when she has triumph and learns to walk again and that now I can finally leave my room and see our beautiful parlor again. But it never, even though all the years in between, from her room where she's an invalid with her back injury keeping her from walking, she's never seen, but she's still directing the house. She wants to take on the project of a housekeeper who instructs everybody what to do, what to clean, what to cook. And so she's very well mentally capable. And she can move around her room fine in her wheelchair, but it never occurs to them to take her downstairs for years. So anyone who has an injury in this day is really considered an invalid, to where they're supposed to be shunned and hidden from society, which is what's really the tragedy of this book. So yes, it's tragic when she has her injury, so she loses all of her hopes and dreams that she had for her visions for herself. But then she overcomes them, and it kind of shows she has hope after all. And in the end, she walks again a couple of years later. And so So the real author of this book, with this pen name Susan Coolidge, she wrote the book based on seeing herself as Katy and her rural life in Ohio with her 5 siblings. And for my research, I never could find that Susan Coolidge or Sarah Woolsey, she actually had an injury similar, although I'm assuming she did, because she even said that she put herself into the character of Katy for this book. So I don't know, but I know she never married and she died a spinster, no children. And so the book is, there are some slow parts. There's a lot of chapters where it's just her in her room directing housekeeping, and earlier in the book before her accident, it's all the play antics of the children and the kids, and they're kind of the building of their life to show what their life is like before her accident. So it's definitely not something for younger children, and it had a good dozen words that were not very familiar even to me as a literature major that I had to look up some, for the time. And there's a very interesting passage in here where she has an auntie, Aunt Helen, who also is an invalid, who has an injury for years and years and years and decades, I guess, and never walked. And they transport Helen to the home to visit Katy when she has her accident. They even carry her up the stairs to sit in Katy's room. Yet it never occurs to them to take Katy to carry her downstairs. So anyway, the Aunt Helen, she talks to her about, how Katy says, I'm never going to be able to be a teacher now. I'm not going to be able to go to school. I'm not going to be able to do all my dreams. And Aunt Helen says, you're in a new school. It's called the School of Pain, where you learn this and learn how to do this and look your best and look pretty even when you're in horrible pain. And so she gives her all these life lessons about how to be a successful invalid, which I thought was really a little bit interesting. And there's some good chunks of poetry in here, poetry written by the kids, the siblings. So that's used as a sort of a literary device in here. And there's a passage here, if I can find it, that there are a few passages that really stuck out at me. Here's when Katy first walked. So they moved on. Papa opened the parlor door. Katy took one step into the room, then stopped. The color flashed over her face, and she held by the doorknob to support herself. What was it she saw first? Not merely the room itself with its fresh muslin curtains and vase of flowers, nor even the wide, beautiful window which had been cut toward the sun, or the inviting little couch and table which stood there, evidently just for her. No, there was something else. The sofa was pulled out, and there upon it, supported by pillows, her bright eyes turned to the door, lay invalid, Cousin Helen. When she saw Katy, she held out her arms. Oh, what a glorious day. So now Helen never gets her walking legs back, and Katy does. So that's an interesting contrast. And they give her all this praise at the end. For Katy, oh, you can walk again. You did it. You overcame it. And Katy is very humble, and she says, I haven't been brave. You can't think how badly I sometimes have behaved in my illness, how cross and ungrateful I am, how stupid, how slow I am. Every day I see things which ought to be done, and I don't do them. It's too delightful to have you praise me, but you mustn't. I don't deserve it. But although she said she didn't deserve it, I think that Katy did. That's the last line of the book, what Katy did. So I guess the real question here is, what did Katy do? What did Katy do? Where does the title come from? And Katy, it's all about her struggle to survive her illness. So very good book. Nice adult read, nice older adolescent read. Classic, 1872. The greatest book, better than Little Women? I would say no. Definitely an interesting story, and it will definitely be in my children's literature thesis project. Thanks for watching.